My next guest is Noah Geisel. He serves as Micro-Credentials Program Manager at the University of Colorado Boulder. He founded and coordinates the annual Badge Summit Conference and is a lecturer at the University of Colorado Denver. His background is as a world languages, ed tech, and digital badges consultant and a teacher passionate about helping educators and students make awesome happen. He has 19 years of experience teaching Spanish, English, and technology, and was recognized as a 2013 ACTFL National Teacher of the Year. He is a constant collaborator on Twitter and frequent blogger on medium.com. As a community organizer and champion of digital badge credentials, he co-founded #BadgeChat and seeks to amplify others' efforts to change the world. He is a learner, sharer, traveler, and a giver of high fives. Noah makes his own buttons, collects Viewmasters, and takes his dog dad duties to Pepper very seriously. Welcome to the podcast, Noah.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. You said that right as Pepper nosed the door open and came to say hi.
Well, I'm really excited to have you on the podcast today. I've been connected to you for a while. You know, we're both in the Colorado Congress of Foreign Language Teachers. We've both been foreign language, world language, which we call it now, teachers for a while, and have a lot in common. So I'm excited to dig in. But the first thing I always ask my guests are, tell me about a time when you were in the trenches and managed to crawl out.
Ooh, I love this question and just the whole theme, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be here with you and share. In thinking about this first question, the thing that I was thinking about is that just the discomfort that comes of being called out and having to own your own stuff, and especially with everything that's going on today, the top news story today as we're recording this is around reactions to critical race theory, and it just makes me think of the first time I had a student who turned to me and said, you are racist, you are sexist, and this is, she had just amazing vocabulary that I'm still accessing, and this is probably 15 years ago. And I remember at the time being defensive and thinking, how could she say this? I am the sponsor of the No Place for Hate Club. I am, I'm a Spanish teacher. Like, I'm here bringing other cultures into the classroom. How can I be the part of the problem here when I'm trying so hard to be the solution? And so that was a moment for me that hurt, and it very much sent me into the trenches. And I think unfortunately it sent me into the trenches facing my bayonet in the wrong direction, that I was looking out, I was looking, out across the field instead of in the mirror, and not realizing that the problem was not, external. The problem was me, even though I didn't realize it. And so, as far as how getting out, like, I am still getting out. It is a journey and a process, and it's, kind of realizing just the power of humility. And that I don't know much, even though I thought I did, and just being a true lifelong learner, not just saying it but being it, I'm finding are kind of the ways to grab footholds, if you will, to get out of the trenches. I'm feeling less deep in it than I have at other times of my career, but I've definitely had these multiple moments that I didn't know it at the time and needed to be called out, and whether it was in the moment or years later, where I just realized, wow, I was a monster and didn't even know it, which makes me in some ways just the worst kind of monster and a terrible ally.
Yeah, and I really like how you point that out, just that part about like those microaggressions and some of the things we might say as teachers that offend students of color. And I had a similar situation where a parent was calling me racist about 6 or 7 years ago, and even sent an email to the principal, and I just felt like, why are they saying this, and what could I have said? And so there's those things that we don't see, and I really embrace that fact that we're all trying to be better now. We're trying to find out more about how we can approach a situation, but you're really being vulnerable in that fact that you're owning up to mistakes that you've made, right?
And sometimes stuff I don't even know that I've made.
Yeah.
And it's hard, that these are things that our impulse is to go to go to a defensive posture
Mhm, mhm.
and to make it about us.
Yeah,
And it's not about us, right? That it's about somebody else's struggle for dignity.
yeah,
Right. And like how I feel about that is not the issue here, and doesn't matter.
yeah.
It's just that it took me years, and I'm still learning just that it's a privilege to even be able to have the mistaken notion that it is about me.
Mhm,
That is even just that because I don't have to deal with things that other people have to deal with. I have this luxury of thinking, oh, this is about the names I'm being called versus the behaviors and systems that I'm perpetuating.
yeah, yeah. It's true. That's true. So you've taught Spanish for quite a while. And just tell me kind of about your transition from teaching Spanish to your current work at UC Denver and the micro credentialing program.
Yeah, and I don't. I think that there's certain things you can never take away from a person. One of them is being a Spanish teacher, and so
Mhm,
even without a class and students, that is something that I will be till the day I die. And I'm
mhm,
sure that there'll be times again where I do have Spanish classrooms. But about I want to say 6 years ago, maybe it was 7 years ago, I just was in a position where I had too many full-time jobs,
mhm,
on top of teaching, and the supporting other teachers and the consulting pieces started to feel like it was having just as much, if not more, impact, and also was a little more time sensitive.
mhm.
And so I kind of was in a position of either choosing to continue to burn out and have zero positive, personal relationships in my life, or kind of choose one or the other for a while. And
Yeah.
so I chose the consulting route, and was really fortunate that within a year was able to get the teaching job at UC Denver. So it's a much lighter load.
Mhm.
It's a single class, but it allows me to teach, and
Yeah.
I'm really grateful for that. And just kind of just a right time, right place nexus on the digital badging work, where it was stuff that thanks to Twitter, to be honest, I found out about it. I thought it was cool. I was following it, and then started to get involved in conversations. And then locally here in Colorado, met with a mentor of mine who had just started as a chief academic officer in Aurora Public Schools. And they asked me about, hey, have you heard about this digital badge stuff? I'm like, yeah, that's that stuff I've been doing, blah blah. And
Mhm,
but
mhm.
oh, I have some people from the district who might reach out to you in that case, because they're looking into this. And so it's just this amazing time, place, nexus where they did reach out. We decided it was a good fit. And actually the person who reached out to me then reached out to me yesterday. Kind of funny
Mm,
synchronicity, to do a training with their new team on this stuff. And it's just a really awesome place of just following inquiry, not
mhm,
knowing where it's going to lead, and it going not just to an exciting place of intellectual stimulation, but just really kind of changed my whole career trajectory over the last 6 years.
mhm. Yeah, it's, interesting in the fact that you just took maybe an idea, things that you'd seen on Twitter, and then it took off. You took that risk, right? You realized that you've been working with a lot of different things and you wanted to, maybe branch out, and then that worked. CU Boulder kind of picked up that program. And what does it look like now for students who are working with the micro credentialing at CU? What kind of things does that entail? Is it for students at a specific college at CU, or is it for all students?
And great questions all around. But in some ways it was, the risk part, 5, 6 years ago was,
Yeah.
I'm going to be a consultant in a thing that doesn't exist. Like
Hmm.
I have a made up job, and 6 years later, and I still have a made up job. It's just, it's for an employer, not myself. And so we are kind of still making it up at CU
Okay.
Boulder. And it is centralized in the registrar's office, so it is open to all colleges and even units that aren't academic. And so it's not only going to be students who are having the opportunity to earn micro credentials and participate in these opportunities, but also staff and
Hmm.
faculty. And So, one of the first ones that's rolling out actually that just got approved is a just and equitable teaching micro-credential.
Okay.
It's out of the Center for Teaching and Learning, so there's no credit associated with it, and it's for faculty and TAs. But there's also things for, there's a group of academic advisors that are working on one. There's multiple things that aren't necessarily student facing, but also several that are.
Mhm.
I actually just got an email this morning from somebody interested in something with biological anthropology,
Mm,
which is just, I
interesting.
have no idea what that means, and
Yeah.
I am so excited to find out, and how we can use micro-credential to change the world. And so basically, it's an opportunity for us to kind of recognize that there's just narratives missing from the transcript, right?
Mhm,
That we
mhm,
have the major, we have the names of the classes, we have the grades, but and what's that, the story that tells is a pretty bland and incomplete story that just
mhm,
doesn't really, you know, it doesn't do a very good job of being meaningful in ways that probably should be meaningful, like, communicating who, a student is as a learner achiever to a employer.
mhm,
And so we're really focused on helping people design micro credentials with that in mind, that it's not just, going to be something that at the end people get a certificate only now because of digital badges.
mhm,
It's a fancy PDF. We're really focused on what's referred to as the metadata, that,
mhm,
in addition to the certificate, people can click on that certificate and see a full description of just what this program is. They can see what was the criteria, like what did somebody have to do, did like, let's add this layer of trust to it, that they had to do more than just pay money and show
mhm,
up and successfully exhale shortly after inhaling. And then, the really transformative piece, I think, is because it's digital, we're able to attach evidence. And so it's not just, what is this? How do we, what's the criteria to get it? But also, it's almost sort of doubles as a portfolio, if you will, because
mhm,
we can attach a learning artifact from that learner that somebody can click on and see, a video or a presentation or a Word document, right? Anything you can attach to an email, basically,
mhm,
that is a way to look and say, oh, wow, yeah, they did deserve this. This isn't just because they paid their money.
mhm. Yeah, and I think that's really a good opportunity for, as you said, both faculty, staff, and students to show kind of what they're learning through PD, through their coursework. As you said, the transcript doesn't say everything, a resume doesn't say everything. So, that hopefully will be used more throughout universities the coming years. I wanted to shift a little bit and talk to you about the honor that you received in 2013 of
Mm.
becoming the American Council of Teaching of Foreign Languages Teacher of the Year, and kind of what doors that opened for you.
I mean, the being a teacher of the year closes zero doors is something
Mhm,
that I've learned. And, I'm going back even before that. I think something that it's really taught me is the importance of being what I call a professional progress bully.
mhm, mhm,
That somebody who I know, amazing educator, mentor, leader in our field, Tony Tyson.
mhm,
I didn't know she knew who I was. And she, just came up to me at a conference and told me, you should nominate yourself for the Colorado,
wow.
language teacher of the year. And, I was like, aren't I was even less gray then than I am now. And,
Yeah.
I'm like, am I a little early career for that? Am I, do I deserve this? And, she essentially bullied me into
Wow.
throwing my name in the hat. And I will be forever grateful for that. And, that experience, I think one of the things that people, I wish more people, we did a better job of helping people wrap their heads around
Mhm,
is a lot of times these recognitions are not just pats on the back.
yeah.
I mean, they are pats on the back, and they feel really good. I'm not going to lie to you, but they, it's also, conferring upon somebody a responsibility, and most people take it really seriously. And that is a responsibility to, wear the sash, if you will, right? That
Mhm,
you
mhm,
are this recognized person in your field, and you could just put the trophy on the wall, or you could, use that in order to, advocate for teachers, for learners, for the
mhm,
field. And, so that I think that, sometimes you see, especially in social media, people have concerns around, awards or prizes for teachers, I think that, the something that's missing from that particular take, and I totally get where they're coming from that take, but I think what they might miss is the value that awards
Mhm.
have for everyone else, not just the person who's getting it, because those people then, we're, you feel this sense of responsibility, and you're reaching out to legislators. You are not staying quiet, when you see something happening. You're doing a blog post or writing letters or making phone calls and advocating, and looking out for other people who are early career, and turn around and being their professional progress bully.
Mhm, mhm. And I think a challenge, especially after this past 2021 school year, is that a lot of teachers feel like they aren't allowed to believe that they're doing something great. Like there's that, that a lot of teachers don't feel like they're doing enough, right? So like nominating yourself for an award, throwing your hat in the ring, those type of things, or even, feeling like, oh my gosh, somebody thinks I should be nominated. I mean, how can teachers shift from that, like I'm not good enough attitude to actually being open to receiving an honor, or self-nominating?
And I think it's really about giving yourself permission to have the
Mhm.
audacity to believe in your own awesomeness.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great to, kind of have teachers
That's a
think of that.
safe fail.
Yeah.
The worst thing could happen is you are wrong. You are not awesome, but hopefully you're not wrong,
Yeah.
but at a certain point, it's, we can wait around for other people to,
Yeah.
to do that. But it's also, I think that there's, hubris and audacity are two, things that can be conflated, but they can also be exclusive of one another. And I think that if you can be audacious and,
Hmm.
humble at the same time, and I think that, me personally, I think that's a good way to do it. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think it works better than combining hubris with with audacity. But there's nothing wrong with being awesome, and believing that that is true.
Hmm.
And again, if one of the things that you asked about, doors that open, and one of the most important doors that open is because of these, this, moniker that comes after your name of teacher of the year. All of a sudden, like, you feel
Hmm.
like you're the same human being, but the words that come out of your mouth might have different weight, right? Like,
Yeah.
man, I wish people would listen to me. I have something to say on this. I'm putting it out in the universe and nobody's listening.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will listen because of this sort of, kind of stamp of approval, or trust layer that comes with, a recognition like a teacher of the year.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. And then they recognize that later on, because I mean, I have friends who are world language teachers in other states, and they, I told somebody that I was going to have you on the podcast, and she's been with ACFL for a long time, so she remembers you, and that goes a long way, like, for those people who've been in the profession a while. So I wanted to shift and talk a little bit about some of the articles and PD courses you've written. You've mentioned a few. One, to know your place, placemaking, storytelling, and the struggle for human relevance, and productive consumption and the bias against learners as sheeple. So if you can break those down a little bit, and kind of what those entail.
Sure. Just to explain those a little bit, those totally wacky titles, just to play in my own professional development, in consulting endeavors, beyond world languages, beyond digital badge consulting, stuff that I've just been really excited about,
Mhm.
is thinking about things differently. And that there's, when I that know your place, placemaking, storytelling, the struggle for human relevance is really rooted in, most of my research over the last, probably 5 years now, is around, just what are we going to do in this world of
Mhm.
outsourcing automation to, in a growing population, to still have ways for people to be, productive, have productive participation in our society. And what's the role of teaching and learning to hopefully help ensure that, people have successful futures. And so that the placemaking, storytelling, and the struggle for human relevance is really was born out of that. And it's a chance to engage with a group of educators around things that they might not already be thinking about, that are, uniquely human,
Mhm.
versus things that can be easily automated, and things that are, I think also very difficult to automate. And so these sort of opportunities that are right there hidden in plain sight, so that we might have a fighting chance of preparing the students who, like me, are going to end up in jobs that don't exist yet.
Mhm.
Like nobody, there was not I couldn't major in digital badge consulting,
Yeah.
that was, and so, and when I was in college, there was no such thing as an app developer, right? Now that there's hundreds of thousands of jobs in that space, right? And so thinking around, what are the things that we don't know, the jobs that don't exist yet, but we do know
Mhm.
some of the kind of skills, and we know some of the foundational kind of fundamental conditions that
Mhm.
play into that. And so how might we, through recognizing those, think around, how that might shape our teaching and learning efforts in order to prepare people for those successful futures. And the other one is a fun one that I've been doing the last maybe 3 years, the productive consumption one, and the bias against learners and sheeple is really just looking at, when we think about, there's a lot of stuff around student voice out there. There's a lot of stuff about students as producers.
Mhm.
And, something that's really kind of scratchy for me is this, pattern we see where production is really saved for the summative steps of the learning process.
Mhm.
That you're consuming, and then, at the end you do this production kind of centered task. And it's an opportunity to really question that conventional wisdom, and also, question things like, that we might assume are
Mhm.
inherently consumptive tasks, and ask ourselves, are they? Like, are we just doing that because that's our background knowledge?
Mhm.
Is reading inherently, consumption, or is there a way to produce while reading as well?
Mhm. 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 Yeah, there's a lot of things that I'd like to learn more about, just kind of in the thought process that you're talking about there, and you got a lot of good talking points.